Control your mind. What lies outside your will holds no power over you. Men, there is a throne within you more sovereign than any empire, more fortified than any citadel raised by human hands. It is the seat of your judgment, the ruling faculty of your mind. If you do not occupy it, your fears will. If you do not govern it, the world will attempt to. Understand this with unwavering clarity. Your mind is the only domain truly entrusted to you. Your reputation is not yours. Your wealth is not yours. Your body itself is on loan from nature. But your judgment, your deliberate response to events, that is yours. And in that possession lies unassailable freedom. You tremble before outcomes you cannot command. You lose sleep over opinions you cannot silence. You exhaust yourself wrestling with forces that neither recognize your struggle nor yield to your demand. This is not strength. It is misdirected energy. The Stoic does not squander power on the uncontrollable. He fortifies the one territory where victory is always possible, himself. Consider the architecture of fear. It does not arise from events. It arises from interpretation. An insult is sound waves. A setback is circumstance. A threat is possibility. Yet when your mind assigns them meaning, disgrace, failure, catastrophe, the storm begins. Remove the judgment, and the storm dissolves. This is not denial. It is discipline. You must train your mind as a general trains his soldiers, relentlessly, deliberately, without indulgence. When anxiety approaches, interrogate it. Ask, is this within my will? If the answer is no, release it as you would release smoke from your lungs. If the answer is yes, act with precision and immediacy. Control of the mind is not suppression of emotion. It is mastery of perspective. The coward is ruled by impulse. The undisciplined man is dragged by reaction. But the Stoic stands between stimulus and response and chooses. Choice is your weapon. The world will not become gentler to accommodate your comfort. Markets will crash. Allies will falter. Bodies will age. Fortune will reverse itself without apology. If your peace depends on stability in these external conditions, you have built your house on shifting sand. But if your peace depends on disciplined judgment, you stand on bedrock. Ask yourself, what truly has the power to harm me? Is it criticism? That is merely the opinion of another mind. Is it loss? That is the rearrangement of matter. Is it death? That is the conclusion nature assigns to every living form. None of these touch your character unless you permit them entrance. The untrained mind opens its gates to every disturbance. The trained mind inspects each arrival and decides whether it deserves residence. This is sovereignty. When you relinquish control of your mind, you become a servant to circumstance. You check for validation. You anticipate disaster. You replay conversations. You construct tragedies in imagination more severe than any reality. You suffer not from life itself, but from the narratives you manufacture about it. Take back authorship. To control your mind is to understand the distinction between event and interpretation. The event is neutral. Your interpretation assigns weight. Therefore, discipline your interpretation. When confronted with adversity, say, this is material. Material for patience. Material for courage. Material for endurance. Just as fire refines gold, hardship refines character, but only if the mind consents to refinement rather than rebellion. Men often believe power is dominance over others. This is a misunderstanding born of insecurity. True power is dominance over oneself. A man who conquers cities but cannot conquer his impulses is enslaved. A man who owns nothing but commands his mind is invincible. If insulted, you control whether you internalize the insult. If delayed, You control whether you respond with agitation or composure. If betrayed, you control whether bitterness defines you or wisdom strengthens you. No external force can compel your judgment without your permission. This principle demands vigilance. The mind, left unattended, drifts toward negativity, comparison, resentment. It seeks comfort and avoids discomfort. It prefers illusion to truth. Therefore, daily examination is required. Each morning, remind yourself, today I will encounter impatience, ignorance, selfishness. These are not personal attacks. They are manifestations of other minds struggling without discipline. I will not surrender my clarity because others lack theirs. Each evening, review your conduct. Where did emotion override reason? Where did you allow external conditions to dictate internal stability? Correct it, refine it, improve it. Control of the mind is not achieved in a single revelation. It is forged in repetition. When fear whispers, do not argue emotionally. Respond rationally. What evidence supports this fear? What action is available to me now? If none, why waste strength rehearsing imaginary catastrophes? You cannot prevent the wind from rising, but you can adjust your sail. The Stoic understands that suffering multiplies when resistance replaces acceptance. Acceptance is not surrender. It is recognition. Recognition that some things are governed by universal law, not personal preference. Once recognized, energy is redirected from protest to purpose. The disciplined mind transforms obstacles into instruction. It transforms delay into preparation. It transforms isolation into self-examination. And most importantly, it transforms fear into fuel. When you control your mind, you cease reacting to life and begin responding to it. Reaction is instinctive. Response is intentional. Reaction is weakness. Response is strength. The marketplace of the world will attempt to purchase your attention with outrage. Guard it. Your attention is currency. Spend it only on what yields. Virtue. Do not measure your life by applause or criticism. Measure it by alignment with your principles. If your mind remains aligned with reason, justice, courage, and moderation, no external fluctuation can dethrone you. Remember this. The chains that bind most men are invisible. They are forged from unchecked thoughts. Break those and no visible chain can confine you. Control your mind. Stand watch over your judgments. Discipline your perceptions. Govern your responses. Then observe what happens. Anxiety loses its script. Fear loses its authority. Circumstance loses its tyranny. And you, though surrounded by chaos, remain immovable. For what lies outside your will was never your master. Only the ungoverned mind makes it so. Fear is born from judgment. Govern your judgment, and you conquer fear. Men, fear does not enter your life as a conqueror. It is invited as a guest and crowned as a ruler by your own judgment. Understand this clearly. Fear is not the event. It is the interpretation of the event. It is not the battlefield that weakens the warrior, but the belief that he cannot endure it. It is not the uncertainty of tomorrow that disturbs a man, but his private conclusion that tomorrow will destroy him. Fear is born the moment judgment becomes distorted. An unexpected loss occurs. The untrained mind declares, "This is ruin." A challenge arises. The untrained mind declares, "This is beyond me." A risk presents itself. The untrained mind declares, "I will fail." These declarations are not facts. They are verdicts issued prematurely by a mind that has not disciplined itself to pause. To think like a Stoic is to intercept that verdict before it hardens into terror. The event itself is neutral. It arrives without narrative. It is your judgment that paints it catastrophe or opportunity. Govern the brush, and you govern the picture. Govern the judgment, and you govern fear. Most men attempt to conquer fear by altering circumstances. They seek more security, more guarantees, more reassurance. Yet fear adapts. It relocates. It survives. Because its root was never external. Its root was interpretation. If you judge discomfort as intolerable, you will fear discomfort. If you judge failure as identity, you will fear failure. If you judge rejection as annihilation, you will fear rejection. But if you correct the judgment, fear dissolves at its source. Ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Strip it of drama. Reduce it to its essential form. Is it pain? Pain is sensation. Is it embarrassment? Embarrassment is opinion. Is it uncertainty? Uncertainty is the natural condition of existence. None of these possess inherent terror. The terror lies in the story you attach to them. The Stoic disciplines his story. He does not deny risk. He does not pretend danger does not exist. He simply refuses to exaggerate it. He refuses to surrender reason to imagination. He refuses to allow hypothetical futures to dominate present strength. Fear thrives in projection. It feeds on, what if? What if I lose? What if I fail? What if I am exposed? But these are shadows cast by an ungoverned mind. You suffer more vividly in imagination than you ever will in reality. To govern judgment is to return to fact. Fact. You have faced difficulty before. Fact. You have endured discomfort before. Fact. You are still standing. Therefore, the narrative that you are fragile is false. When fear rises, do not fight it emotionally. Examine it rationally. What judgment produced this reaction? Challenge it with evidence. Replace exaggeration with proportion. If you fear failure, redefine failure. It is not condemnation. It is instruction. If you fear criticism, redefine criticism. It is not destruction. It is information. If you fear loss, redefine loss. It is not injustice. It is change. Fear shrinks in the presence of clarity. The Stoic does not ask life to be safer. He asks himself to be stronger. Strength does not mean absence of fear. It means correct evaluation of it. Consider this. Every courageous act in history occurred in the presence of fear, not its absence. The difference was judgment. One man judged the risk unbearable and retreated. Another judged virtue more important and advanced. Judgment determines destiny. When you label an obstacle as threat, your body tightens, your breath shortens, your thinking narrows. But when you label it as challenge, your mind sharpens, your posture strengthens, your energy mobilizes. The external condition has not changed. Only the judgment has. And that change alters everything. To conquer fear, you must practice disciplined perception daily. Do not wait for crisis. Train in ordinary moments. When inconvenienced, resist labeling it catastrophe. When delayed, resist labeling it injustice. When corrected, resist labeling it humiliation. These small disciplines compound into resilience. Fear grows in minds that crave control over outcomes. But outcomes were never yours. Effort is yours. Character is yours. Decision is yours. When you anchor yourself to what is truly within your authority, fear loses its leverage. Why fear what you cannot prevent? If it happens, you will respond then. Why fear what you can influence? Act upon it now. In both cases, fear becomes unnecessary. Men often disguise fear as caution, as procrastination, as perfectionism. They say, "I am waiting for the right time." In truth, they are waiting for the disappearance of uncertainty. But uncertainty is permanent. To demand certainty before action is to demand paralysis. The Stoic moves despite incomplete information. He trusts not in guaranteed outcomes, but in trained character. Govern your judgment about uncertainty. Instead of viewing it as danger, view it as space. Space for initiative, space for growth, space for courage. Ask yourself, if I remove the dramatic interpretation, what remains? Often, what remains is simply effort. A conversation, a decision, a risk. None fatal, none absolute, only uncomfortable. And discomfort is not doom. Fear convinces you that feeling afraid means being incapable. This is false. Emotion is instinctive. Judgment is deliberate. You cannot always prevent the initial surge of fear, but you can prevent its coronation. You can prevent it from dictating your action. Pause, breathe, reassess. Say to yourself, this fear is a signal, not a sentence. It is asking for examination, not obedience. When you repeatedly govern your judgment, fear becomes familiar. It loses mystery. It becomes data, something to analyze rather than something to escape. And as familiarity grows, intimidation fades. You begin to recognize that fear is often the threshold of expansion. The conversation you avoid is the conversation that would strengthen you. The responsibility you hesitate to accept is the responsibility that would refine you. The risk you dread is the risk that would reveal your capability. Fear marks the border of growth, but only disciplined judgment allows you to cross it. Remember, the mind is a courtroom. Events present evidence. Fear argues catastrophe. Reason argues proportion. You are the judge. Render your verdict carefully. If you consistently judge events through the lens of virtue, asking, what does courage require? What does wisdom demand? Fear becomes subordinate to principle, and principle is stronger than emotion. When your highest loyalty is to character, fear cannot command you. It may speak, but it will not rule. So govern your judgment. Examine your narratives. Refuse exaggeration. Replace assumption with fact. Replace imagination with reason. Replace avoidance with action. Do this relentlessly, and you will discover something extraordinary. Fear was never your enemy. Ungoverned judgment was. Master that, and fear bows.